Христос Воскрес. Будемо починати. Ми тему бачили задекларовано, так? Ми сьогодні працюємо в гарячих точках і намагаємося зрозуміти, яке майбутнє є журналістики. Прошу.
Now you must applaud afterwards, not before. Always after, not. May I see who was here yesterday? You were here yesterday, yesterday. You were not here yesterday. Yes. Oh, I'm very impressed. Thank you. Thank you for coming back. Thank you for coming back. So I don't have to explain if you were here yesterday. It is not necessary for me to explain why I will take off my jacket and I will take off my tie, but I promise I will stop there. Do you have some music, background music? For the... No? Yeah, yes. Oh. Did you see the tie? I have never bought a tie in my life. People give me ties as a gift always. And I'm not sure if they give me the tie because they like me or because inside, psychologically, they want to strangle anyone. Yesterday we talked about formal and informal. The jacket and tie is formal, of course, and it's very important in the Vatican. Oh, yes, that's okay. In many times during the day, I must go backwards and forwards into Vatican City past the Swiss guards. And if I go with my jacket and tie, the Swiss guard says, "Buongiorno, dottore, passi." Hello, yes, go through. If I go without my jacket and tie, the Swiss guard says, "Out." And I say, "But I'm the man with the jacket and the tie from 5 minutes ago." "Out." So, the jacket and the tie, if you need the formality, you use it. If you don't, you don't. Today, what does it say on your schedule? Why are you here? Why are you here this afternoon?
They made us.
I'm very sorry to hear that. I thought that the old-fashioned regime was gone many years ago.
Formally.
I hope that after a while you will choose and be here because you want to be here. Were you here yesterday? No. Then you don't know that the most important question we ask is motivation. Why are you here? So I need to know, why are you here this afternoon? What have you come to hear? Yeah? Alice? Have you been to Greece?
Yes.
Oh.
I'm here to hear what do you think about our hot point here in Ukraine.
Yes, that's not what I'm here for. That's not what I'm
just
here for.
joking.
What does your schedule say for this afternoon? What does it say?
You had to tell us something about working as a journalist, like in army, not in army, like about Northern Ireland and Africa problems and Libya.
Okay. I think it says in my version, it says experiences as a war correspondent. And I think what we mean by war correspondent is a journalist, because that is what you're here for. Is that right? You're here to listen to journalistic experiences. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Completely.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
You're here to listen to journalistic experiences, and being a war correspondent is an extreme form of journalistic experiences. And so that is what I will talk a little bit about today. In this part of our program this afternoon, you will hear things that you have already heard before. And you will see things you have seen many times before. Unfortunately, some of the things you will see, you see every night when you turn on your television. Because the world does not change. People continue to fight. People continue to do very stupid things. And no one stops to ask, what is the most important question? Not who, what, when, and where, but why? Why do people continue to fight for crazy reasons? Why? We know that war is a bad thing. Is anybody in favor of war? Does anybody like war? Does anybody think war is a good thing? There's nobody in the world who will say war is a good thing. So why do we go to war? We will look at 4 examples this afternoon. I want you to watch and listen very carefully. Because in the second half of our program, Father Bent and I will ask you what you think. We will ask you what you think of these situations. We will ask you how you would react as a journalist. I will tell you what I did. We will ask you what you would do as a journalist. I will tell you what really happened. And we will ask you, do you think that was a good thing or a bad thing? A good way or a bad way to react? So if you thought you could come and sleep here this afternoon,
No way.
no sleeping. I want you to be interactive with me. I am a teacher, but I'm also here to learn. Communication means speaking, listening, and learning. So, with the help of Damien, we will start. Where do we start? I think we start in Lebanon, is that right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you know where Lebanon is? Do you know where Lebanon is? It's in the Middle East. And I start there because if you look at the map, what do you notice? What is nearby Lebanon? What other country? Syria, yes. What is the big war story now? Syria. I have friends and colleagues who are reporters in Syria now. And near, where did I put my, there it is. And near to Syria, what else do you see? Iraq, huh? Which until a short, that was where, and near to Iraq? Israel and Egypt. Always, always in this area. There is Lebanon, and there is Beirut, this tiny piece of land, so small, and the city of Beirut, the capital, which in the early 1970s was one of the most beautiful cities in the Middle East. It was called the Venice of the Middle East because if you live in Beirut, you can swim in the Mediterranean Sea in the morning. You can have a picnic in the forest by the lake at lunchtime, and you can ski on the snow in the mountains in the afternoon. That is how beautiful Beirut was. Let us see what happened to Beirut and to Lebanon when I was there in the early 1980s. This is how long the war lasted in Beirut. I was there in the very middle of the war. in 1982 till 1984, I went backwards and forwards to Beirut. What is very sad, I think, is that these pictures you see from 30 years ago are the same pictures you will see tonight on your TV about Syria. We have learned nothing. People dying, children crying, mothers weeping, buildings destroyed. We have learned nothing. Thank you, David. The situation in Lebanon was very complex. It involved Christians, it involved Muslims. The Muslims were divided into different factions: Sunni, Shia, Druze. The city of Beirut was divided by what was called a green line. It was the no man's land. And the Christians were in East Beirut, and the Muslims were in West Beirut. And as a journalist, I was the one who every day, many times a day, took my camera, my cassettes, my videos, and walked across the no man's land from one side to the other. And I had a Christian TV crew here and a Muslim TV crew there. They could not cross the line. I had to cross the line every day. And it was a line with sandbags and guns and tanks and snipers. And the war had been going for so long that people would leave signs in the street: do not cross, snipers. And you, okay, thank you, and you went the other way. How old are you? 23. I was 1 year older than you are. I was 24 years old. And I was very excited. So excited, I thought I could not die. When you are 23 and 24, you don't believe you can die. You believe nothing can happen to you. And so every day, I walked across the green line, and I felt so good. I felt so strong. I felt full of power and energy. I could do anything. Nothing could happen to me. And I went into areas and did things, if I think today, I would never do them again. I worked with cameramen and with TV crews that were just as young and crazy as I was. And so the first challenge, the first thought we want you to think about is, what is the green line between courage and stupidity? What is the dividing line between being courageous and going into a situation to film or to report on that situation, and being stupid and irresponsible and putting your life at risk and the lives of others at risk? One more story. One of the film crews I worked with, it was a French crew in Christian East Beirut. I worked with this cameraman because he was cheap, not because he was good. And he was cheap because no one would work with him, because he was famous. When we went into areas hit by shells and bombs and landmines, he would film whatever he saw, and he felt nothing. Journalists would not work with him, except young, irresponsible journalists like me, because he was with a journalist one day, an American journalist, when the shell fell very nearby, blew up, and the journalist's arm was blown away. And his cameraman, my cameraman, stood with his camera, and he continued to film the arm lying in the ground over there, and his journalist with the blood spurting out of the arm over there, and the journalist is screaming, "Help me, help me!" And he pulls out his handkerchief, his tissue, and he throws it at the journalist and continues to film the arm. There is an end to that story. The same journalist is dead today. He was in Australia. He was doing a documentary on bushfires in Australia when the helicopter he was in crashed. They found the tape when they went to the wreckage, and they played the tape. My cameraman, when the helicopter went out of control, continued to film. He filmed his own death. He filmed as the helicopter goes when it breaks down. A helicopter doesn't go boom, like an aeroplane. It goes, it goes down slowly, out of control. Any cameraman knows you have to change focus because you're coming closer to the earth. And then he filmed, changed focus so that until it hit the ground. In the second part of the discussion today, we would be very curious to hear your reactions. Is that an ethical response? Would you do the same thing? Is the cameraman or the journalist, is his or her duty primarily to record reality, objectively, unemotionally, to record reality, or to interfere with reality? I won't answer that question. I would like you to answer that question. Let's move on. Where are we going now? Where are we going?
Northern Ireland.
We're going to Northern Ireland. Do you know where Northern Ireland is? It's in the north of Ireland. You have to look for Northern Ireland because it is very, very small. Now, here is Ukraine over here, this big country over here, and that is Northern Ireland over there. This little spot in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. And what is there in Northern Ireland? Is there oil? Is there oil? No. Are there trees, forests, natural resources, gold, silver? There's Guinness. There's not in Northern Ireland. There's nothing. Tourism? Not even. There is nothing in Northern Ireland except the Northern Irish. And they all live on the same island, and they are all Irish. So what is their problem? They say their problem is that people in the north are Protestant and people in the south are Catholic. Next question for the second half of the discussion. What role does religion play in the conflicts and the wars in the world? Religion. All of us who say we believe in God, one God, and we go to war to prove it. We kill and hurt other people to prove that we love God. Northern Ireland. Can we see a little piece of what I saw in Northern Ireland about 20 years ago during what we call the Troubles In Ireland, this period was known as the Troubles, the problem times, the difficulties. This is what it looked like. The soldiers are not Irish. The soldiers are British. Britain wanted to maintain control of Northern Ireland. The Irish Republican Army, the IRA, said they wanted Northern Ireland to be part of the whole of Ireland. Why did the British say, go ahead, take it, there's nothing there anyway? The reason was the IRA said they wanted to turn Ireland into a model like Cuba. And Britain said, we don't want Cuba as our next door neighbor. So these are the young British soldiers sent into Northern Ireland. It cost Britain $10 million per day to keep their soldiers in Northern Ireland. The IRA would plant bombs wherever they could. The idea was to kill as many people as possible. It didn't matter if they were Protestant or they were Catholic. The important thing was to kill people to get their point across. Thank you, Damien. When I was there, the situation was so scary, and the chance of being blown up by a bomb on a bus or in the street was so great, I could not find a film crew to work with me. And contrary to Lebanon, I had to pay a lot of money, danger money, for a film crew to come and work with me in Northern Ireland. And while we were walking through the streets of Belfast with the camera crew, children would come running to meet us. And the children would say, "Hey, mister, you want me to burn something for you so you can film it? A car will cost you £100. We'll burn a bus for you for 300. Discount today, special offer only." They had a list, a price list. To burn a car so we could film it cost 100. To burn a bus would cost 300. Next question. How much of what you see in war footage is constructed by the journalists themselves? What I filmed really happened. I paid no one. But how many others, if they have a deadline, and in Washington or London, they are saying, "We need the footage for the news tonight at 8 o'clock. Where is the footage?" And you don't have anything burning. It's easy. You go out in the street, you say, "How much? Huh? Okay, here it is. Go, throw." And you film. It happens. It does happen. Let's move ahead. Another example. Where are we going now?
South Africa.
Okay, so we're going from the Middle East to Ireland. We're going all the way down to South Africa. You know why it is called South Africa. There it is. What was South Africa famous for 20 years ago?
Apartheid.
Exactly. You thought South Africa and you thought apartheid. Can you explain to everybody what apartheid was? Maybe not everybody remembers. In Ukrainian, yes?
Винищення однієї частини людей, просто вбивали корінних жителів.
White people over here, black people over here. We are always drawing lines. We're always drawing lines. Black people here, white people here. South Africa. If you think of a symbol of South Africa in the apartheid years, you think of a place called Soweto. Soweto was the black area of Johannesburg. Johannesburg is, after Cairo, the biggest city in Africa. Johannesburg is the richest city in Africa, one of the richest cities in the world. Johannesburg is built on gold, a city built on gold. And this is how most people were living in Johannesburg, in what is called a township, a ghetto, the area of Soweto. When I was there, Nelson Mandela was still in prison. And the regime, the apartheid regime in South Africa, was very afraid because international pressure was getting stronger and stronger. The world was applying sanctions. You could not sell anything to South Africa. You could not buy anything from South Africa. It made no difference. The world continued to buy and sell. Too much money involved. Too much money. The government was afraid. What do people do when they're afraid? Where is he? My friend from yesterday? Yeah, there you are. What did he do when he was afraid? When I came into his territory? Proxemics, do you remember? It all comes together. It all fits together. What did he do when he was afraid? You become aggressive. You become aggressive. And the regime in South Africa became terribly aggressive. And the more aggressive they became, the more the people rose up against it. But it was always black people against white people. The black people were not allowed to have a demonstration, a manifestation. They were not allowed to express any political position. The only place they were safe was during a funeral, because even the government in South Africa respected the dead. And so the funerals in Soweto became political gatherings. When I was in Soweto, I had to use a black film crew, and I went into Soweto with my black film crew and stood in the stadium while the people shouted and chanted and said, "Too many black people are dying, we must change this." And everybody, 5,000-6,000 people turned and looked at me. And my film crew said, "I think we must leave." That was Soweto. In Soweto, I met a man called Desmond Tutu, Archbishop Desmond Tutu, who later on won the Nobel Prize for Peace. And in that situation, Desmond Tutu, still today, stands as a bridge between the two. And when apartheid ended in 1992, Archbishop Desmond Tutu created something called the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. And so my next question for you: if it is true that religion is sometimes the cause of conflict, can religion sometimes also be the solution to the conflict? You see, when apartheid ended, there was so much pain and so much suffering, and no one was addressing the pain. And it was him who was able to create this bridge and invite people to speak about their pain. Truth and reconciliation. I admit my faults. I say I'm sorry. I'm sorry I hurt you. Then we get up and we move ahead together. Last example. Where are we now?
Berlin.
We're in Berlin. I left Berlin to last because it is closer to home. 1989. East Germany, West Germany, and Berlin, the symbol of a divided, not just a divided country, but the symbol of a divided Europe. A symbol divided by a wall. When I was a little boy, I remember the newspaper articles and the photographs showing the Berlin Wall being built. I remember when they built the Berlin Wall. And as a little boy, before it was just the barbed wire, and they were digging the holes, and they were putting up the watchtowers, and the world was saying, oh, this is a terrible thing, this is a terrible thing. And as a little boy, my reaction was, how would I feel if my family was divided by a wall? It means I could not visit my friends on the other side. And as a war correspondent, I went to the wall. Can we see the video or the pictures? And this is what I saw. And the picture is in black and white. It seems like such a long time ago. It's not a long time ago. This was the wall I saw. Checkpoint Charlie was the gate through which I had to pass, just like the Green Line, just like going inside and outside Soweto. But here it was an ideology. And here was the West. And here was the East. And here was capitalism and consumerism. And here was the socialist, communist ideology. And someone had to cross the line. And so the next idea I would like you to think about, is that the journalist's task? To cross the line? Is that what a good journalist needs to do? Someone has to cross the line. And maybe at the risk of your own life, maybe that's what the journalist's real task is. Crossing the line. We'll just look at some various images, though you've seen, I said you have seen these many times before. They're very familiar too. Crossing the Berlin Wall through Checkpoint Charlie, I would go into East Germany and I would interview people, dissidents we call them, dissidents, people who disagreed, people who were already underground, getting into the underground. And underground, we say in English underground because many of them really were underground. Yes, and they would put a hood over my head, get in a car, and all I would know was I was walking down steps, always walking down, never walking up, always walking down. And they would take the hood off, and you were in a room, in a cellar, under a house somewhere. In those days, we did not have beautiful digital cameras like these that can do everything. In those days, we had big cameras and big sound equipment. And the problem was, how do we get the camera and the sound equipment into the underground? And there, the journalist must be very creative. You need creativity. It's easy for me, but what about the equipment? We used to put the equipment, thank you, Damien, we would put the equipment into trash cans, garbage cans. And we would put on a coat, very old coat, and a cap, and the garbage can, and we would go into the house with the garbage can, like we were going to fetch the garbage. Quickly go downstairs, up, do the interview, put the equipment back in and go out with the garbage. And sometimes we did it we had the secret police headquarters was right across the road with the glasses watching us, and we would do that just the same. For me that was okay, it was exciting, it was fun. Was I putting someone else in danger? I don't know whatever happened to those dissidents. I don't know. I got the story out. I was able to take that footage and put it on CNN and put it on BBC, and they gave me prizes. They gave me awards. I have them at home. They gave me a silver medal in New York, and I was so proud. But I was very young. And today, I don't know. And I'm curious to hear your point of view. I won the silver medal. I don't know what happened to those people in the underground. I told their story, but I didn't care what happened to them. Bert, we left with Germany, because that is something perhaps you remember too. Oh, and just getting, yes, and then getting the tapes, sorry. That's how we got the interviews. To get the material through Checkpoint Charlie, the guards, the border guards, would always take out the seats in the cars, because we would have to drive through, and they would take apart the inside of your car, because they thought you were taking people out through the gate. They also went around with the mirrors on the stick around the car to see if there was anything underneath. But we knew that the mirror could not see the middle of the car. So we would put the videotapes in black bags, black plastic, and wrap them to the chassis of the car, the middle part, in a line like this. So when the guards went around, they couldn't see. And we would act very suspicious inside the car. So they would think that anything was inside and spend a long time looking inside the car, and they get very tired because there was nothing there, and then go around, okay, let us through. And that was a risk. But we got the story out. Last question. Is the story worth the risk? Thank you.